Hello, my loves, and welcome back to BehatiLife YouTube and BehatiLife podcast. If we're meeting for the first time, my name is Alexandria. It is an honor, it is a blessing to be able to pull charts and share intuitive messages with you today. For those of you that are old friends and family to me and the YouTube and the podcast, welcome back. There is plentiful information, a bounty of information when it comes to what is happening in the stars, the astrological transits. That information I want to pass over to you. Along with that, I have spent the morning and into the afternoon, the greater portion of the afternoon, channeling messages, organizing my thoughts, writing them down. You will be receiving that as well. Before we dive into all of that soul food message, I want to always take a step back. This is something that I love to do. I am huge on setting intention and inviting the divine, our angels and our guides in for this sacred, special moment and time that it is that we are sharing. For this moment, for the time that is that we are sharing together, the intention that it is that I'm setting is for clarity. This clarity that I call in is for you to pay less attention to the external energies that are going around you, pay less attention to the noise and the conflict that is happening within your body. At least for now, let's practice the art, the feeling, the vibe of stillness. Everything else, we can go back to it. Everything else can wait. But for now, this moment of stillness, this moment of intention, we give it as a sacrifice. We give it as an offering over to the divine. The divine to me is that loving, generous, all-powerful creator that beckoned us here at this moment in time here on earth. The clarity that I ask that it be gained through this moment of stillness is a time for you to be able to discern, for you to understand the impact that you just being who you are, that you have on this planet, that you have on this globe. When I said the word clarity and I'm setting the intention for clarity, it's not that you feel like there's something that you need to do or something that needs to be done, that in this state, this moment of being, that you feel, you understand, you have this deep sense that you are being clearly seen by the divine, that you clearly see yourself through this divine, loving lens. When you see that and when you have clarity on that, all the external noise, all the internal chaos, it tends to fall back. It tends to take a seat off to the sidelines because none of it, at the end of the day, none of it really matters. I don't want to take away from our troubles here on earth as human beings, or even our success here on earth as human beings. Those things are significant. They do matter. But at least for this moment in time, the intention that it is that I'm setting, the clarity that it is that I'm calling in for you today, it's that regardless of the highs, the lows, the exaltation of people when they put you on pedestal on earth, or when people trash talk, or when they don't understand, or where there's miscommunication and you feel like you're at the bottom of the barrel, that at either way, wherever you're falling right now, or if you're in this delicate balance of the in-between, that you understand that your inherent value still lives. It still is thriving. It has never been taken away from you. With that, I'm setting the intention that this clarity from this moment, that it is that you are being delivered right now, that it reminds you and reawakens within you this energy, this belief, the action that you take and how you treat yourself and how you treat others with unconditional loving kindness, with patience, with grace, softness, without question. So now would be a wonderful time for you to pause the podcast. if needed, as needed. Feel free to pour yourself a cup of water or a hot cup of tea or coffee, or get cozy, hunker in while I begin to unpack the astrology transits that are going to be impacting us and greatly felt by each of us individually for this week. When you're ready, let's go ahead and dive right in. All right, my loves. So hopefully you have your cup of water or whatever it is that you're sipping. Please let me know what your choice is this afternoon. I have mine. Currently, I am sipping ice cold water. 2 years later, I'm still obsessed with ice. It just gives me so much life. Even though it's not the best thing for your body, I'm not going to call it into question. I'm just going to allow myself to receive this cold, icy goodness. It feels too good to deny myself the pleasure of a solid ice cube these days. We take our pleasure and our moment of enjoyment where we can find them without question. Okay. So I do want to say, as I'm pulling up the astrology charts and as I'm unpacking these messages, it's interesting because the overarching energy collectively that we are experiencing this week, believe it or not, actually stems from the word, at least from what I can see, the word unpacking. We are processing. Processing means that we are acknowledging, beginning to sort through and understand our emotions, our thoughts, our feelings. Then when we're done processing, we become inspired on what to do with those thoughts and feelings. This processing time takes time. October 14th was the solar eclipse that happened in the sign of Libra. This is what, from what I can tell, has been activating this energy of processation, is what it is that I'm going to call it. It has brought to life and brought to light energy that forces us to see or to see through and to gain clarity on fill in the blank. This could be health-related concerns. This could be your relationship with another person, your relationship within yourself. Libra naturally rules relationships, of course, but also how we try to intentionally harmonize, connect with, partner with, fill in the blank. This energy with the eclipse will always be intensified because that is, in a nutshell, what eclipses do. They intensify the energies around us and even times exaggerate it. This can feel good for some people or even enlightening as it clears the path before you. On the other side of that coin, it can feel very revealing, it can feel exposing, and it can even feel threatening depending. Not only is this solar eclipse happening in the sign of Libra, but Mercury, the planet that rules communication, rules understanding, and actually rules our ability to process information, is in overdrive because it's falling under light that this eclipse is bringing. The problem is that Uranus and Jupiter are retrograde in the sign of Taurus. The foundation of how we normally understand things to be placed is radically and quickly being taken down. It's being dismantled. This is showing up globally. When we look at these transits, we are feeling them not just in our intimate lives, but we're watching it pan out in the global scale of things. We're seeing this in old issues that have been reoccurring problems, conflict, especially when it comes to values and how we see things differently individually as people, whether that be inspired from cultural differences, religious differences, or just philosophies are different. This is ultimately going to be impacting your personal life, your intimate life too as well, because we each individually are being called to deviate from our normal way of doing things, of living life. Oftentimes, our ego, our identity, what we believe about ourselves, the self-talk, the noise in our heads is being confronted not just by these eclipses, but also by these major planets that are creating larger turmoil. We have to reassess our foundation. This Libra solar eclipse in particular has so many layers to it. If we stayed superficial and we tread water at the surface of this eclipse, we would say that the eclipse opens up new doors for relationships. And superficially, yes, it does. But journeying a little deeper, the eclipse is actually highlighting our relationships, how we allow them to enter into our lives, how we engage with them consciously, subconsciously, what we're accepting or what we've already accepted. Setting the intentions for discernment during the Libra solar eclipse will help you to uncover and to process, where does this end and where does this begin, especially when you yourself are having a dark night of the soul, an ego death, you're re-emerging, you have a resurge of your passion and re-emergence of your independence. And yes, of course, Libra energy strives for partnership and union, but don't forget that the very opposite of this solar eclipse that is impacting us here this week is the Chiron retrograde in the sign of Aries, and also the North Node falling in the sign of Aries. What's very interesting here is that the solar eclipse is sitting directly on top of the South Node. The South Node is the energy that we have all collectively lived through, grown through, and have some level of understanding when it comes to how we compromise or overextend ourselves for the sake of others, to the point where it becomes detrimental to our own well-being. And oftentimes we think that us giving so much of ourselves and compromising, making someone else happy, is going to be great for the collective, because when they're happy, it's fine. But the truth is, if all of us individually if we're not having our needs and our wants and our desires individually met, if we're not fulfilling our life purpose outside of incorporating other people into that, it's like what we have to do for ourselves, how we are individually called to act. We end up setting certain standards and certain requirements and certain expectations that isn't conducive to an environment where we're all thriving. And if every single one of us is not at our best, or operating at a normal that is healthy and sustain, then collectively we are not as strong as we could be. So with the North Node falling in the sign of Aries, it's asking you to look at not just your intimate relationships and your partnership, but what is your relationship like with energies around you? Do you feel like you have enough value? Do you feel like you have enough voice? Do you understand the depth of the uniqueness that you bring and the power that you hold, in order to feel like your voice even matters, that your opinion matters, that you are empowered enough to make a difference? If not, then the universe is going to make you move in great ways so that you overstand the importance and the value that it is that you bring to this earth. Now, that's just the energies of the solar eclipse that happened in the sign of Libra, and the North Node and the Chiron retrograde in the sign of Aries, that we're currently unpacking. It's very important for me, I feel, to take a step back and look at all the other overarching energies that are contributing to the vibes that we are feeling this week today. One thing that's standing out to me the most is the fact that Mars, the planet that rules our ambition, our drive, and what we chase after, what we fight for, our masculine, is currently transiting through the sign of Scorpio. So too is the moon. We're going to be feeling this at the very start, the beginning of this week, Monday through Tuesday. Scorpio energy always leans into how powerful we feel within ourselves and our understanding of how our power can be detrimental or beneficial to others. It usually falls on your intention. What is your intention for the energy that you bring? What is the intention for what is that you're saying? What is the intention for what it is that you're doing? The true, real, authentic intention here. This is a moment for you to reflect and to be honest with yourself. When you say this, what did you mean? What was the purpose? What were you trying to achieve? This is not only just your energy, but also a moment of reflection as you watch others move, because it's not just you that's under the influence of these planets and these transits, but others as well. As the moon is moving through the sign of Scorpio, this is a wonderful opportunity for you to unpack how you have been feeling, any deep feelings, and even sharing those feelings with others, with your journal, with the world, with the divine. This is going to be so important and even add to your power, because when you are expressing it, when you are uncovering it, when you're uprooting it, it allows you to see it, to observe it, and even opens up the space for you to process what is that you are discovering within yourself. Remember how I said in the very beginning of this video and this podcast that this week I feel is a time for clarity and for you to understand the difference, the impact that is that you make on this world, and how the divine is generous and wants you to see that it sees you. This is something that I really want to remind you of and to reawaken within you, is that to go deep is to see that which is hidden within you, subconsciously or even consciously. How could it be consciously hidden? Because sometimes we know that there's something here that we need to face, that we need to deal with, and we find all the many ways to distract ourselves, to add fluff to it, to make it sound prettier or nicer than what it actually is. We are knowing participants of this conversation, this dialogue that we are trying to convince ourselves and others of, when the truth is that if we were to call it out, if we were to address it, if we were to spend time with it, to gain intimacy with it so that we can better understand it, to process it, it will be something that empowers us. Now, for those of you guys that are just like, Jess, can you give us an example for how we can apply this to the bones, the truth, the meat of our lives? I would love to do that for you. The first example that is actually coming to my mind right now, the forefront of my mind, is someone who finds that they constantly are being helpful and showing up for others. In theory, it sounds wonderful. It is. It's beneficial to other people in the short term, in the temporary, because people receive them and know that they are someone that they can count on, someone that they can call on, someone that will help them, will give to them, whatever the case is. But notice how the person who constantly shows up and overextends themselves can oftentimes feel a sense of resentment, especially when it's time for that energy to be reciprocated. That difficult feeling of resentment or sadness or disappointment when it's time for that energy to be reciprocated and it's not poured back into you is natural. It's understanding. I would understand that to be the feeling that you feel. But if you go deeper in with it, you will understand that you may have accidentally, unknowingly, find yourself showing up in this way because you yourself may question your own value and feel that the only value that you add to this earth, or the only time when you're seen and heard, is when you are showing up for others. And that painful feeling that you have when others don't show up for you feels like it taps into that wound of invalidation or not being important or not being seen, heard, and loved, when the truth is it's not that you are not loved or appreciated or supported. It's just that the role that you believe that you should show up in this way has you moving in this one way, and fostering relations and energy that comes with conditions. Versus if you unpack those difficult feelings of loneliness and desperation and feeling exhausted or burnt out, when you unpack those feelings and face them, confront them, you are able to compassionately, hopefully, fingers crossed, come to terms with that part of you that really needs unconditional love and pouring into. And that means that it won't come with strings attached. From that place, you have the chance to uncover, to chase, to pursue Mars in Scorpio, Moon in Scorpio, energy that fosters that deep need within you. So you don't find yourself subconsciously showing up in the same way, the same role, in order to fill that void that has been sitting there dormant, but very active. When I say dormant, I mean that it's untouched, it's sitting there, but it is very active in the fact that the way that you move every day may rip off the scab or add bacteria into that wounded space within you. And instead of you turning your head away from it and trying to overcompensate, overextend, or pile onto that place, in an effort to not see it, to not address it, to not uncover it, to not heal it, this is an opportunity for you to feel it, take deeper time to process, to understand, and then from that place, move from a position of empowerment. I hope that this is making sense. Do know that when I'm podcasting or doing my YouTube videos, I write down a lot. You'll see me looking down at my notes, but it's so important for me to flow. As organized as I am and am not, it's very essential for my own well-being, for the core of myself as I know myself now today. But of course, I'm evolving just as you are. It's important for me to flow along with this, with these charts, with these messages as I move along. It feels better for me. One of the final points that I want to bring to you that I'm seeing this week is I want to remind you that we are in the season historically of tradition breakdown. This is the way of the old world being broken down and the start of the new world, the new energy ushering in. This is not just energy that we're seeing big picture, meaning like in our government, our politics, economics, environmentalism, etc., but it's intimately being impacted in the breakdown of our egos, our identity, how we have known ourselves to be. This can be a bit of a mind, if you know what I mean. Like, it can really throw you for a loop because all of us, we're born onto this world and we have certain experiences that we're born into. We're born into a society that tells us certain things about ourselves, certain ways that we learn to communicate, certain expectations that we have for relationships, meaning that we apply to certain things and what it means for us, and then we internalize that. There's so much of that energy, that foundation of our core beliefs, our mindset, our philosophy, our expectations, that is actively being crumbled and corroded now today. With that, Saturn retrograde, Neptune retrograde in the sign of Pisces, these energies are making us need to reevaluate, reassess the boundaries. Where do I begin? Where does this end? What do I do with this now? Who ultimately am I? I want to say that this question is uncomfortable, but with that uncomfortability, there is really a lot of opportunity. With that, I want you to know that there are going to be certain information, conversations, dialogues that may be triggering. There's going to be a mindset that a lot of us rubber band ourselves back into. With this, please, this is where journaling and reflection is so empowering for not just you individually, but for our society. Because the more that we're opening up our minds and our hearts to this new shift here and asking these open-ended questions and approaching life from a curious perspective, instead of saying, this is the way that it has to be, this is the way I know it to be, this is my experience, is this what makes sense to me, try to be curious and let the vastness of all of the conclusions that you can come up to, let that be an opportunity. This is going to be wonderful, especially when it comes to your financial abundance, when it comes to your purpose, your path here on life. But more than that, it will help you to connect with others through their experiences, especially when it comes to truth telling. I do want to say that our society has a difficult time accepting abnormal revelations or truths that we think should be applied with shame or guilt or remorse. This inability to tell the truth and to speak from the heart without shame and guilt is something that we're not accustomed to. We're not used to it. But the more that we find that speaking your truth and speaking your perspective, even the ugly or uncomfortable parts, is something that should be uplifting and empowering and provide freedom for every single one of us to individually do this. If we're not able to do that, then we find ourselves still kind of sticking with these old stereotypes and these old mindsets of this is the way that it should be, this is the way that it has been done, when ultimately that old way has created a lot of secrets and deception and dishonesty and unhealthy places in relationships and in the relationship within ourselves or the relationship with the world that has fostered and gone on for too long. So I do want to say that as the old way, the old normal is getting broken down, and I want to encourage you to ask questions, to be curious, and to, as much as you can, kind of explore what this energy is showing up for you in this life, and try not to be silent but observant. You're really challenging yourself to listen. You're challenging yourself to listen with the intention to understand from a different perspective that you might not have considered before. You do not have to accept everything that is being said as truth or right or wrong. Try to understand it as it is what it is. You will know if it is for you or if it is not for you by the way that it makes you feel, especially if you're someone who is like me. You bring your revelations, conversation to the divine. You're actively talking about it. Me personally, I don't just talk to the divine to ask for things that I want or things that I'm struggling with. I'm having a constant ongoing conversation with the divine because that is the first relationship in my life that is the most important to me. That surpasses everything else. You may not necessarily need to accept someone's energy or what you're hearing or what you're observing as right or wrong. You can just give gratitude for the fact that there is a truth, a voice that's being expressed. And in watching that, it gives you permission and others permission to express their truth, your truth, in the way that it applies to you. Bringing it back to astrology, I do want to say that the start of this week, as the moon is transiting through the sign of Scorpio, intense emotions, feelings, observations, those things are going to surface. This is a wonderful time for you to dive into your journal, your notebook, to retreat from the world, to give yourself warm baths, to focus on intimacy. Oftentimes, yes, of course, sharing that intimacy with another person, but more importantly, the intimacy that you're sharing with yourself. Do you feel comfortable in your skin? What is it that you need right now? What is it that you can do for you right now to feel good so that you don't feel like you're someone who is forcing and chasing these unconscious or subconscious desires, hopes, and wishes? How can you lean a little bit further into the feeling of vulnerability, especially when it comes to things that freak you out for the future, things that feel uncertain for your future, even in the present? If you're feeling anxious, depressed, lost, confused, hopeful, expectant, bring those feelings of vulnerabilities to the divine, put it up into your journal, pull it up and out onto your altar, spend time with it, grow with it, learn from it. On Wednesday through Thursday, the moon enters into the sign of Sagittarius. This is when you can venture out and begin to truth seek or to seek information in order to support what is that you discovered or uncovered about yourself in the very start of this week. This means that you could find yourself exploring classes or posts or information to uplift you, to exalt you, to celebrate you, to pour into you. Friday to Saturday, the moon enters into the sign of Capricorn with these information that you got from the feeling that you had while you were exploring as the moon was entering into Sagittarius and transiting through Sagittarius Wednesday through Thursday. You're now beginning to lay the groundwork and to become more serious and firm in your terms and conditions of what it is that you want and need for yourself. You may even find yourself setting rituals, intentions, writing petitions, prayer work, or moving in some solid form. Let's say you realize that physical activity is going to be something that's very good for you. You felt that, you saw that, you started doing research on it. It's Friday to Saturday, which I'm seeing you making those action steps in order to make that a possibility and making it, well, not a possibility, a reality. For some of you guys, I'm even feeling like this cozying feeling that you're feeling with the home. Friday to Saturday is where you are investing in energies, things in order to make your home space more comfortable, supportive, nurturing for you, or whatever is that you need in order to make your own needs. Then towards the end of the very, very end of the week, Sunday into Monday, the moon enters into the sign of Aquarius, and this is going to bring in a revitalizing energy shift and change. I felt it very important for me to talk about the moon's transits this week because I believe that it will help you to know what to expect with the energies that we're currently feeling right now. It can feel very intense and then probing, meaning like you're trying to find and poke your way into a solution. When you find yourself trying to search and to find that solution, when you find the thing that resonates with you, then you're going to find yourself building it and establishing it and working it into terms. And then from that space, moving with that energy, you feel uplifted. You feel like you can help in a bigger way. You feel like you can help yourself. You feel empowered. You feel curious. You feel expansive. You feel the vastness. This is energy that is not light. It feels pretty intense, or it could feel intense. It could feel heavy, but at least you know what to expect. So my loves, I do want to remind you that you are so powerful, way more powerful than you believe that you are. You can create your reality through how you plan your days, how you explore your days, how you show up for your days. Like I said in the very beginning or throughout the entirety of this podcast and this YouTube video, your vulnerability is where it is that you're going to find your strength. So try not to shy away from that. Even if you find that something scares you, startles you, makes you question yourself, or you might hear someone else's opinion on what it is that you're saying, what it is that you're doing, and you may question yourself, am I doing the right thing? Did I say the right stuff? Is this all for nothing? Is this going to turn into this big snowball effect that I can't pick up or I can't build from this? Do know that Spirit is encouraging you to continue to follow your passion and to trust yourself within this journey. I also want to tell you guys that there's a lot of energy here that is bringing you to life, especially when it comes to energies that have been lying dormant. This is activated again by the solar eclipse happening in the sign of Libra. It will inspire a new path to unfold before you. That can be exhilarating, but it can also be scary. There's a whole lot of emotions that can come from that, and it's human to feel that. With that, do know that by bringing it to the divine, you will find all of your answers. By bringing it to the divine within yourself, you will find all of your answers, okay? So I'm sending you guys all of my love. I do have BehatiLife Note subscription. It's $15 a month where I shuffle. I go deeper within the tarot, my intuition. So that will be linked down for you guys below. There's also a coupon code for those of you guys that wish to use that to subscribe. I would love to have you as an addition to our beautiful, intimate family there. Also, some things that you can look forward to. Sacred Circle Tarot School is revamping itself right now. Very excited about that. And I have some projects. I want to say that they're small, but they're not small. They're pretty big. That are happening around, but I'm not comfortable sharing them yet. But I do want you to know that there are many things developing, especially as we're entering into 2024. This is going to be a year of big boom bangs in a good way, I promise you. I'm setting the intention for that for my life. What are you setting the intention for in yours? Please let me know on TikTok, on Twitter, well, I guess it's called X now. Hello, sir. Thank you. I see you looking at me, curious. It's so weird when people are like, she got lights going on in there. Is that a planet and a skull that I see behind her and some candle lights? What she got going on? You can find me on any and all social media platforms. Just search BehatiLife. For those of you guys that are receiving any type of random messages from people posing as me offering readings, I do not actively do that. If you wanted a reading from me, it would always be at BehatiLife.com. That's home base for everything that you would need to confirm, to validate anything that I'm doing or anything that is authentically coming from me, from my heart, from my apothecary, from my space, from my altar. It will only ever come from BehatiLife. It's not something that I would offer to you and say, I'm giving this to you, take it here right now. This is the only time. It's something that if you seek it, you will find it, and it'll be found on my website. So I'm sending you guys again all of my love. Thank you so much for vibing with me. Once again, I hope that this finds you well. Please subscribe to this YouTube, this podcast, because there's plenty more videos and podcasts where this came from. And I'll see you in my next one. Bye.